All right, welcome to episode 21 of the War Room. Tory will be joining us here in just a second, so I'll kick this thing off. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't, make sure you like and follow our social media. We try to keep you guys updated with the reels and what we're doing. We're building the wagon right now, and we appreciate the shares and the follows, whether it's on our YouTube channel, our Facebook channels, our TikTok, even Twitter. So we appreciate that. So look, a lot of you guys are tuning in because we're giving more details out about this throwback class. I want to be clear on the throwback class that it's a throwback class. Okay. So we're going back to an era, not necessarily a promotion or a set of rules, but an era, right? And we're gonna reel it back. If you're going turning back the clock, or you're going back in time, I guess, you're going to go back a extended amount of time, and you're looking at 10 to 15 years. And that's what we're doing. We're going to turn this thing back for a second big class at the King, and we're super excited to talk about that a little more and give you guys some more information about it. And with that said, like I said, Tory will be joining us here soon. Tory is somebody that we're inviting in. Promoters, working with promoters is pretty cool, and we're going to invite him in to our show next year. I really want to get his feedback on the show. I want to hear what he's got to say. It's kind of a new perspective. I talked to him a little bit about our format and what exactly our format is, and they've done some formats in the past. And it's interesting to go back and forth on why they did formats and why they chose formats, and then why we have our format and kind of what it's solving. So in a throwback class, it's really going to be pretty cool to see guys running the format, see guys compete, see stuff, bend, obviously. Not that they're not bending in other classes, but people, that nostalgia thing, people enjoy that, right? So it's that's pretty cool. So thanks for tuning in. Let me send out a quick message here. Sorry about that. So again, thanks for tuning in. I will go into the format a little bit as we're waiting on Tory to hop in. I know he's getting to his house and connected to his Wi-Fi. So I'll get into the format. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, maybe haven't seen what Triple D's about, our format exists for a couple of reasons, but it ultimately exists for competition. It creates competition in which you actually have to beat cars. So in a demolition derby, most of the time that you dangle this carrot out. In our case, this year for our big class, it's 50,000, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do with this throwback class. Oh, I got Tory joining. I think we're gonna go ahead and add him to the stage. Tory, you there? Oh, we lost him. Maybe it was me. He'll get back on. So I'll go into this format just a little bit more. It's about competition. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I just got a quick touch on this thing and I'll be all right. I'm just trying to get the right angle. Angle of the dangle, How we doing today, everybody?
Man, we're good. It's good to have you on here. I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us.
No problem. Let me get a little better light in here. There we go. Yeah, so there we go. Now you can see me.
All right, so I'll give a proper introduction to Tory. So Tory has been in the demolition derby game for a long, long time. He's done a lot of things, which we're going to talk about tonight. But one of the biggest things that he did was he was the owner and operator of a demolition derby company for 10 years. He's the founder of
Derby All-Stars, we'll call it.
Derby All-Stars. There you go. He was the founder of We Crash and the founder of DDDA, right? Demolition Derby Drivers Association. Is that what that stands for?
Yeah, and then WeCrash.com was the website for that.
Okay, and WeCrash.com. Now, since you've sold these entities, right, Man, you went off into retirement.
Yes, I've sold many, and some come back, like WeCrash.com and other entities. But yeah, it seems like it all keeps coming around. So
But you are you're the founding guy of a lot of this stuff, and I don't want to step too far, but Tori, if there was a Hall of Fame, I'm sure it couldn't exist without your name in it.
yeah, I just love the sport. I never really was trying to be the Godfather, the Hall of Fame, or anything like that. I just love the sport of demolition derby. I always thought it could be run better, and I knew I could do a better job, and so I did. A lot of people say they can do a better job, and not many people step up and actually do it and step into the role where you can put your butt on the line and have to make a lot of hard calls with guys with a lot of money on the line. And it was fun. It started off actually years ago with my Schutte racing team website, and my family just putting up pictures, showing guys how to build cars, showing the before and afters of Chevy wagons, and people just couldn't get enough of it. And Dustin, it was crazy. Actually, I just used the guest book. They used to have guest books on your Geo Cities page, and I used a guest book as the first classified ads for Demolition Derby, and got to know. You be quiet. That's my dogs in the background.
Right.
But I got to know people like Monty Stava, and Dave, Raptor Fab, and all those guys through some of the first ads ever posted in my guest book, and then that went on to become We Crash, and then next thing I know, I'm a promoter. Next thing you know, I'm out. Went fast, let me tell you.
Well, you had an awesome 10-year run there, and I do want to get into kind of the pinnacle of the sport. I mean, there was a time there, Tori, that you were at the pinnacle of the sport. It was the Super Bowl. Your promotion company was the Super Bowl of Demolition Derby, and it wasn't even really debatable at that time. And it's really cool. I want to talk about some of those memories in that air. We'll call it the air, in the air of your
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary, to put on the big more money, whatever we want to call it, show. That was my first show I ever promoted. Think about that. The first show I ever promoted was that show. I didn't get to cut my teeth on a county fair or anything else. The first one I was actually head honcho in charge of the damn thing was show, which is,
Let's talk about that, because it's not often that I get to talk about this publicly with somebody else that's been in the game. There was a time when it was my first show and I just jumped right in just like you did. How scary was it for you? You mentioned it was scary. How scary was it for you?
At the time, I actually took a $10,000 loan, home equity loan against my own home. I showed up with $10,000 cash and had to make sure I could pay the purse. That's so scary. Yeah, I sacrificed the home I was living in order to be able to make sure I could pay the purse. And that was always what I had to make sure I could do, was pay the purse. So Charlie Preen was running the show for years, and he took about $28,000 in entry fees and took off with all those guys' money. A lot of guys still had their cars built. And so me and Scott Gropp and Dave Guard all started it up and said, let's do it, with only about 2 weeks to go. Hi, it's my dog. You can tell she loves me. And so with only about 2 weeks to go before the show, I think it was maybe 3 weeks even, Scott Gropp set a lot of the backwork stuff up. Me and Dave got to going on rules, and we made it happen. And it was a great show. We ended up with like 53 cars at the first one. And then the very next year, it literally went from never promoting to the very next year, I was the biggest, largest promoter in the entire nation, and had, two in Spring Explosion, Fall Brawl, and Metal Mayhem at the time were the three biggest shows. And then from there, it went nuts.
Let's just refer to that as the air of that, the ore. But yeah, it is crazy. And then obviously, you're in promoting for 10 plus years. There's ups and downs. It seems like you can't have a show without ticking somebody off, right? And in today's world, I got to deal with it with social media. And fortunately, I mean, there's cameras for everything now that you can go back through when people say you make bad calls. So you've been through it all, man. You've been through the ups, downs, people hating you, people, all that stuff, huh?
Hated me. I never knew anybody hated me. I thought they all loved me.
When you know damn well that when you put this cap on, it comes with hatred. It's just like
Absolutely.
you're a bullseye for some reason, and I never quite understood that because without promoters, uh, you don't. There is no drivers, and without drivers, there's no promoters. I mean, I don't understand. I never understood that friction, and I
Uh,
still
I I came about in an era when county fairs would pay $300-400 to win. The first time I was handed $700 to win, I was just shocked. And those guys were making hundreds of thousands of dollars and paying $400 to win. So that was my attitude: is I'm giving you guys an opportunity to put more money in your pocket than any other motorsports until you get to the professional ranks.
So I didn't anticipate that conversation. So you see what the county fairs are making and what they were paying out to, and you understood that's not a healthy relationship.
Well, no, I was just one of there was guys before me that did standalone shows, don't get me wrong, but to put your neck out on the line and put every bit of it on your back, rent the fairgrounds, put up the purse, and hope the guys will send their entry fees and stuff like that. It was a lot to do, but county fairs have been doing it forever. And I know if you put the right name behind it and the right set of rules behind it, had good officiating, I knew that people would come out of the woodwork. My phone is blowing up today with people I can't believe. I won't even say names, but just legends of the sport that are hitting me up saying, "Let me know, I'm in." So it's really
That's
makes me feel good, like I may have done something right along the line.
Well, let's get into that, and I'm sure we'll reminisce a little bit more, but let's get into that. I contacted you um, a while ago, and put the
Actually, the little shit story, Toby contacted me,
oh
and
yeah,
between him and me, we got the whole internet on buzz.
yeah. Hey, Toby, and Toby's kind of in that air. Toby is kind of the trendsetter out there at
Yeah,
your.
one of many legends that really, were electrifying and watching them put driving clinics on.
Yeah, absolutely, and he was definitely one of many. So I contacted you after Toby, right? Toby reached out, and then I contacted you, and I said, "Hey, we want to do a throwback class." And I thought no perfect person to reach out to than a guy that is in retirement, has been out of the game.
Hey,
I
quiet
know
puppies.
you're never really fully retired from the game, so I've had conversations with you in the past. You said, "Hey, I'll help out whenever," and so I said, "Hey, why don't you come back? Why don't we have like a special guest this year, and let's do some type of throwback class."
Yeah, I've offered to help out any promoters that want me to help. And what did I ask? Not much, right, buddy? I've said any promoters that want me to help come promote their shows, help them build their shows, help them do anything I can to better this sport. I'm still active in that in any way I can. So I was excited that you reached out to me. A lot of people had expressed interest in that era, when the legends really came from all over the United States because the rules were so perfect. And I've been hearing that rumblings for a long time, and literally from every corner of the United States, all wanting to do the same thing. And so it was funny that Toby and you guys reached out and said, "Hey, let's go back to that era when the legends all came out and see if we can see some of the greats battle it out in this new format." And I really like your new format.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking the same thing. Now we got to think about, hey, how do we get them to Ohio? Because Ohio has the stigma, right? You said it yourself. Oh, hard cars, this and that. Um, but we want these guys to come to Ohio this time, and we want them to feel comfortable coming to Ohio and competing in these nostalgia throwback rules because we run a format. And I explained the format to you. You loved it. I'm going to go through it real quick here just for the sake of everyone watching. So our format, if you guys are new to Triple D, we've been running it 3 years. It's been very successful. It does a couple things. It starts to address the issues that we have in Demolition Derby that forever have been issues, right? Sandbagging, teaming, and lack of competition. So at our show, we're going to put a multiple of 3. So probably in this class, there's going to be 9 to 12 cars on the track. You're going to be in groups of 3. You don't know when you're getting drawn. Okay. So we draw you right before the heat, and you don't know who you're running against. But what I will tell you is that it is very intense. It's about competition, and you're going to be as competitive as you're ever going to be in this circumstance. So we draw 3 cars. This is how it goes. We draw 3 cars. We paint their pillars one color. So let's say it's green. And we do that, let's say 3 more times for the heat. So now you have a total of 9 cars on the track. You're not worried about anyone except your color. You have to beat the other 2 guys that are, let's say, green, and that's it. Whether you beat them in 2 minutes or you beat them in 20 minutes. And, you know, Tory, when I was pitching this 3-4 years ago, Toby was actually one of the first guys that I ever reached out to. He said he absolutely loved it. And he came on board and helped us out for the first couple of years. This makes you compete, man. These guys are thinking about coming to Ohio, they don't have to think about coming in and running in against a group of people. They don't have to think about running against a group of people in the feature because there's limited people in the feature.
Very limited. Very limited. That was great.
These guys
25 cars, right? 25 cars. Perfect.
It'll actually, because you know, we'll take 60 cars for this class. You'll never get 60 to actually show up. So let's call it 45, right? That pass inspection and show up. Now you're taking a multiple of 3 because you're running heats. So let's say you're going to have 15 cars in the feature. You run a couple consies, and our consies are always going to be harder than our heats. So what these guys got to realize is that it doesn't pay to break your stick. You're going to run against 2 cars, and you only have to beat 2 cars to make our feature. But if you go to the consi, you're going to have to beat 5. You're going to have to beat maybe 8 cars. So it depends on how many people actually, you know, get their cars ready for the consi. But it's always going to be at least twice as hard as it was in the heat. So it doesn't pay any dividends to do that.
Love it. I love it. And it truly figures out who the drivers are. You know, you always find out who the drivers are when it gets down to the end of the feature. Well, this is like literally getting down to the top 3 at the end of the feature and figuring out who the drivers are right now. It takes all the politics out of it, all the bull crap out of it. To be honest with you, I really like the format. I only saw 2 problems with it. Is that you guys in Ohio like to build too much and too much welding, and this lighter build will be just, I think it'll be twice the show that you guys have with your weld cars, just because stuff will bend and break and fold up a lot quicker. And then, oh my God, the black cars got to go. So if we just paint some nice cars up, red, blue, and white, and green, and yellow, anything but black, oh my God, is that the only paint they sell out there, buddy?
I'm telling you right now, when I was growing up, people told me if you paint your car flat black, it makes it harder. And that's
yeah, you just blend in.
Yeah, you just, that's what you do. And you know, I like that. I like that you pointed that out, and I like that that's what you were about back in the day. So we are going to continue that tradition. You won't have black cars in this throwback heat, which will be pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you're going to pursue any type of television shows for your demolition derby, you got to get rid of black cars. They don't. You can barely tell what's going on if you know, especially at nighttime. The cars just all blend into one. So, just in the interest of entertainment and possible television contracts, you got to get away from the black cars.
You're 100% right. And who knows when we're going to turn over that leaf? In conversations all the time. So at some point, hopefully we do that. Hold on just a second here. I got my little one. All right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Got a little 3-year-old who just turned 3 yesterday.
I got 2 puppies here trying to wrestle each other, so no worries.
So back to where we were at with the black cars. and you said you saw two problems. I'm telling you right now, man, we've ran this thing. This is no longer like a sales pitch. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. We've
Oh
got
no, it's a proven product.
Yeah, we've got 3 years of obviously the product on display. Our heats, man, are in our king class are averaging under 15 minutes. Everybody's trying to do that, right? In the entire country. Our heats are averaging under 15 minutes, man. And that's in those hard cars.
Yeah. That's incredible how fast they were bending and how quick the action is pushed. You know, there was a few people messing around that I saw, but they got told real quick, hey, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, back in the day, I know you guys put like pink balloons on cars. And
Nothing worked. Nothing worked. The only thing I ever did, pink balloons and X's and all of that crap, you could shave them all the way to the trophy. They don't give a damn. The only thing that ever worked for me was time limits. I was when you put a 20-minute clock on them and reduce their payout at 30 to 0 and they didn't make the feature, you know, whether the clock was 20 or 30, but the time clock was the only thing that ever pushed the pace that I've ever truly found out that worked.
You know, I heard something real recently, and it came from Kansas, and I wish I could give the guys credit. They started taking lug nuts away. Chad Markley mentioned it, but I don't know if Chad did it or if somebody else did it. They started taking lug nuts, like front lug nuts. So if they stopped the Derby, they took two, or then, obviously you get down to one lug nut or two lug nuts, you're in trouble.
You got to drive even softer with no lug nuts.
Maybe. Look, all the gimmicks.
I'm not saying that ain't a great idea. I think it's genius, but yeah, I don't know what to do. But to just say, hey, you only have to kill these people, and the amount of money that you're going to have going in there and used up cars and stuff, I think it's going to be a great feature any way you slice it.
Yeah, and look, it's taken a little while for people to catch on to it, but I'm telling you, the people who run it, the people who watch it, they like it. They like it, and they say the only thing that I've heard people say is you can't fix the feature, and I argue with them, man. I'll argue with them too. I'm blue in the face, and the reason or how we fix the feature is we limit the feature. We don't let all the friends in. We don't give out 25 Mad Dogs in a heat or in the consi. We don't let half the consi come. Like it's you win to get in this feature for this big money. That's it.
Yeah, you don't have 40 cars out there and 10 friends working together.
We got some questions coming in, so I want to make sure I address these. So James says, so you only try to take out your color, then one car per color left per heat goes to the feature. That's correct. So if we have 9 cars on the track, there's going to be 3 sets of colors, and only one car per set of color moves on. That's it. It doesn't matter your friends, your foes, whatever. Like you're there for yourself to compete against these other 2 drivers. And if you beat them in 2 minutes, or it takes, our longest heat ever was 45 minutes with a group of 3. That was our first or second year. It was awful. It was terrible. But for the most part, I mean, our heats are obviously averaging under 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was quick pace, and I saw a little bit of teaming where you knew a couple of guys were working together, but then instantly they had to turn on each other, so it was a short-lived teaming, and then they had to turn around and take each other out, so it was a perfect scenario. It's like, okay, you still got to take that guy out.
I never understood that, and because you do see that a little bit, and it's like, man, if I'm on the track, there is no way I'm passing a shot up on anybody that I'm against if I know
I guess
them.
it would, but I think the one time I saw it, it was like 2 wagons, and there was a Crown Vic or something out there, and it was like, let's take that guy out, so we'll be at least equal, so we can maneuver. Why you wouldn't want to work with the Crown Vic to take the other wagon out, and then the Crown Vic would tear you apart. So I think they got together and took the little car out, and then they were equal, which made sense. But
yeah, you can't rid it all, right? You're trying to better it. Put them in a
trust me, these Derby guys will figure out a way. They'll figure out a way in every scenario. They'll figure out a way.
Yeah, and that's their job, right? Our job is to enforce the rules. Their job is to find a way around the rules.
Herd the cats.
It's inevitable. So let's So to recap on that, just for guys that are just tuning in or just catching the back end of this, we're going to be having a throwback class at our King event in 2024. Tori's going to be joining us, which is going to be really cool. And when we say throwback, we're going to be putting together a set of rules that's in an air of basically pre-protectors. I mean, the protectors were just starting to happen. There was no hump plates. You had some down leg stuff, 5-on, 5-off trunks, and it was all a mix. The new school, what's really cool about this is the new school was just becoming a thing. And now, obviously, I think you fast forward 15, 16 years or 14 years, whatever it is, from that era, the new school is probably going to be a little more prevalent. But one thing you guys didn't deal with back then, Tori, or maybe it was later on in your reign there, is 03s.
No, we didn't have many 03s trying to come because we didn't have any rules that allowed them to do anything. So most of them weren't bringing them because they were exploitable like an Imperial would be.
And I noticed you guys didn't run Imperials back then. What's the reasoning for that?
I just saw Imperials as being a show killer.
Might have lost Tori there for a second. We'll see if he hops back on.
They are horrible. You put a bunch of stock 03s out on the track and they suck like Imperials. 2 hits later, they got their front tires knocked off. They're limping around. Nobody can make a hit. They can't steer. They're lame. So I never liked them. I got rid of them. I even got rid of Suicides after Don Santel kept winning them, everything with them. And I'll tell you right now, I'm pretty confident Don's cars were legal, but so many people just had it in their head they weren't, that it just drove them absolutely insane. Me and Don talked about it many times. It's perception is reality, regardless how many times you could tell them, look, I cut these cars apart. I drilled holes. I drilled holes where a certain people were like, drill it here, Tori, and then drill it here, Tori, and then drill it here. And I kept drilling all night long. I'm like, shut up. I'm giving Don $10,000. I'm done drilling holes in his car. But we literally had to get rid of him because the perception was out there that he was unbeatable and if he was in a Lincoln. And one, Butchie's an amazing driver, and Scott Kohler was helping him build and had great motors, and they just had the winning combination at that time.
And he was doing it in a car that no one else was doing it in, which was pretty cool. He thought outside of the box. A lot of those guys were running that would run those Lincolns, Suicides, were Mad Dog guys, right?
He actually got the Mad Dog and made the feature and won the feature. He got the Mad Dog in the heat.
Nice.
That year. When you watch him roll in that Suicide, you'll see pink paint on his car because he's a Mad Dog, not because he was a sandbagger. So that post that I put up today showing all the 2011 cars rolling in for the feature, you'll see pink paint on those cars, and it was because they were Mad Dogs in the heat, or instigators, or legend instigators, whatever we want to call them. I don't know. So he was actually an instigator in the heat, went to the feature and won the feature that year, and got 98% of the vote, 95% of the vote to go to the feature as the instigator. He was killing everybody with that car. It's hard. They're hard.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember was it MGM? Who was that? Like a yellow
Mike G, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was just getting into this back then. I remember certain things, and this kind of go back memory lane. I remember like Troy Tagg and those boys coming from Cali in a semi.
58 Mercury Turnpike Cruisers and crazy old Galaxies and stuff. Yes.
That type of stuff. I was a lot younger, back then, but that type of stuff, it was like must-see TV. It was really cool to see the drivers promote your event, and they were promoting your event because it was, one of obviously the biggest in the country. It was the Super Bowl, but it was cool to see that. Toby and those guys broke the internet with the Fords.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. How interesting was that? I'm sure it didn't just go kosher when they showed up with those.
Well, Rutherford years ago, John Rutherford knew that they were really hard cars, and he came to Mayhem and just about won and won. And so everybody knew they were hard cars. And Ohio had some stuff figured out with tilting and everything else that a lot of the other nation didn't. Mike Decker, credit Mike Decker. And so there was some stuff coming out of Ohio that nobody else saw. And so when they came out, Toby just started putting it on everybody at Mayhem that year. And it was precision driving. He actually would sit there and pick on the corner of a wagon until he rolled the leaf spring up. And then once he got the leaf spring to roll, he'd hit it a couple of punches in the back door and then roll the leaf up. I mean, you watch that little Crown Vic wheel around some people that couldn't get their wagon or didn't have gears in their wagon, obviously. And Toby exploited them. And people were like, oh, just eyes wide open. Like, I can destroy a wagon with a Crown Vic that I can get for free at this time or a couple $100. So people's minds were blowing when they saw Toby just destroying people with them. And if you watch Butchie pull in there with his suicide, I'm not giving any tips away here. Look at all those suicides roll in. They look like V's in the front. Their bumpers were rolled up into their radiators. Where Butchie's bumper was always way, way lower in his suicide than anybody else's. I mean, below that crossbar in a lot of ways. Inches lower than everybody else's. You don't think that made a huge difference in driving down on tires and not just folding straight up? But people were too. What's that?
The width of his bumper and what it covered, it was wider. I mean, you look at some of those Sueys that rolled into that feature, they got bumpers on them that not even getting to the tires.
Right. And he's good enough driver that he didn't have to worry about his tires or his bumper being low. He wasn't going to let anybody clear his radiator, so he would roll in with lower than anybody else would have ever. So all those other guys were worried about getting cleared and would put their bumpers as high up as they could, took their leverage up high and folded those things into their radiator before the feature. He's rolling in straight and perfect. Like, figure it out. It's all angles. It's those legends back then figured everything out. And the cream always rose to the top. Bob Whitaker being another one that built just amazing cars and drove every one of them. Clean builds too, super clean builds on his.
Now, Bob told me he would come over here on a lighter build, so I'm going to hold him to it, Tory.
Oh, he will. How much time you want to weld on? The guy runs 1 million shows every year. He's got to stay light.
Yeah, he said he don't want to run any of those hard cars. So he said he'd come over here in a lighter build.
Look what happened to his dad when Mike Gebro hit him that year in his wagon.
That iconic picture of him over the seat.
Yeah, that's Bob's thinking, and that was before protectors.
Yeah.
So
yeah, another thing that stood out to me watching, reminiscing to that era was just stock bumpers, man. You just had stock.
You there? I think I'm losing you.
Hey, I'm not sure if anyone's still in here, but the sirens went by and our electric went out, so everything just went black. So I gotta go find my kids. So we're gonna end this one for tonight. I'll contact Tori and we'll get back on here later on.